Alright, how can you tell when Lord Bolton is cold?
No idea. No idea.
He gets roost bumps.
Hi everyone, welcome to day whatever, and welcome
6.
to Game of
Days-
Thrones Season 5. Day 6, Game of Thrones Reaction, Season 5, Episode 3. Which is going to be right on.
Just called Hi Sparrow.
Hi Sparrow.
Would you like to tell the viewers how they can see the full-length reactions?
You can go to patreon.com/Genesis of Antizani. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
There you go. That's a bird. Watch the full-length reactions. There.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Go
on
do
on the lowest tier. It's like $1.
Yeah, $1. One lonely buck.
Yep. No counterfeit bucks though.
No. Certainly not.
Yeah. Last time we had some technical issues, which was unfortunate, but we had the House of Black and White, which had a very nice section at the wall with Jon being elected as the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. And we had a good small council scene with Cersei. And we also had a nice speech from Barristan about the Mad King. And apart from that, it was garbage. Well, some of it was okay, and some of it was
really
garbage.
Bad. It was not great.
Yep.
Not great. Not a great start to the season, let's be real.
Yep. Very
Pretty disappointing.
poor character stuff, and some very weird contrivances, and just a whole bunch of nonsense.
I don't like nonsense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't great. It wasn't a great episode.
No, it wasn't. We said it was tied for the worst one so far with the season 4 finale.
Yes, we did. That's very true.
And yeah.
And I don't have expectations for, going forward with season 5. It's already sort of it's trying to claw its way back into even just decent territory at the moment.
We're only 2 episodes in.
Yeah, we're only 2 episodes in. Yeah, it's already been a bit of a struggle. There's already stuff at Aya was a bit strange. Things at King's Landing is sort of half baked. Everything with Tyrion right now is really shit. The stuff with last episode with Sansa Littlefinger, all that stuff wasn't great. The convenience of all that. Unfortunately, my reaction to that scene has now lost to time. I was very confused.
Daenerys publicly beheading a slave.
Yeah, which was really fucking stupid. Just send him to jail for life. That's all you needed to do. And you could have conflict there and it not end up probably in riots. That's sort of her worry now. And yeah, alright. Yeah, and then stuff at the wall has been decent. I liked all the stuff at the wall as of late. That stuff's still pretty good overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that stays up because that's probably some of my favourite bits at the moment from the last sort of season.
As a book reader, they are slicing out a lot of the good stuff, but the stuff that they are doing in terms of the short form story, they are handling it well. Though I will preface that the election happens at the end of the 3rd book, so if they had enough time, it's kind of end of season 4 material, really. When you consider where it should be adapted. But I think they just wanted to. I think the reason why it's in season 5 is because they wanted the battle at the wall to be episode 9, and so they couldn't fit it into episode 10.
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here nor there. Your anticipations, possible optimistic things to think about going for High Sparrow?
I'm sort of pretty much where I'm at right now, even 2 episodes in.
I'm wanting just more stuff for the wall at the moment. I'm obviously hoping that all the stuff starts to actually, work with everything else, but my expectation for that is not very high. I'm expecting it to still continue to be quite drill and quite poor.
Well,
So,
what I can say is,
yeah,
from an optimistic point of view, the good stuff we've had so far has been at the wall, and it's been with Cersei. And this episode's called High Sparrow, so it's going to have something to do with the Sparrows, which was introduced in episode 1 with Lancel.
yeah.
So you imagine that Cersei's going to have something to do with this. And also, we have not gotten anything with Theon Greyjoy yet.
No, we still got him to come, which has been some of my favourite parts of the show with him. So we've still got that, and we've still got obviously stuff with the Boltons. We haven't got them this season yet, so they're still to come too.
Well, let's remember the last time they appeared was episode 8 of season 4, and they were going to Winterfell.
Yes, so Winterfell is still, and obviously in the intro, opening sequence, the smoke is all cleared. So when we next see it, I'm expecting it to be
instead of the direwolf, it's a flayed man banner on Winterfell.
Yes. Yeah. So those are my expectations right now, and my anticipation for this episode. Maybe we'll get some Boltons.
So if we're going best faith, if we get stuff with the Wall, with Cersei, and with Theon, it could be better than the last two episodes.
Could be a good episode. Could be good. It could, as long as it's good, I'll be happy, because when it's good, it's real good.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even if it's okay, it'll be better than the last two.
I mean, yeah, literally, even if it's like a 5 out of 10, I'll be happy, because average is it's there's good parts and there'll be bad parts. But
a 5 out of 10 for the last 4 seasons of the show is a standout episode. So, yeah.
I guess we should get started and consume this content.
Yep. And then if this episode has no Wall, no Theon, and well, it's going to have Cersei, but if it had no Cersei, I think we'd be in trouble.
God, imagine an episode of Game of Thrones, and it's all either just all Arya Stark, or all Sansa Stark, or all Tyrion right now. That would honestly be... We'd be in big trouble. That's the case at some point.
Daenerys.
I didn't. That's how little I think about Daenerys and her Meryn storyline right now. It's
and Jaime as well. The Jaime stuff's real shit.
Yeah, the Jaime stuff has been very strange. He kind of feels, even 2 episodes in, he kind of feels such an outsider to the story as a character. It's very strange.
Ever since the Cersei rape scene, he's just, something's been not right.
He's been I mean, yeah, that's lingering as a character thing. That just why did they decide to do it like that, and why did they direct it badly? Basically,
yeah. His last really, really good scene was the scene he had with Tywin at the trial.
Yes, that's the sort of last, because those 2 characters together, they always have good scenes together, and that will not continue, probably. We know it doesn't, because we know it doesn't.
To be fair, the scene with Jaime and his Tywin's corpse wasn't great, but that doesn't really count.
No. That was kind of average too, because the dialogue in that scene wasn't up to snuff to what the standard normally is.
Yeah.
That was the first. Was that the first? That was the
first episode.
One of the first. Yeah, first episode, first couple scenes, and it was apparently very stilted dialogue. But maybe this episode will turn it around. Maybe we're being too judgmental.
Hopefully, we get some focus with Jon and Cersei. That would be nice. They're the MVPs of this season so far.
Mm-hmm. So far, yes.
That's smoking from Highgarden.
So much being quiet.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh well. Stannis Baratheon. Oh, Moat Kalen. Hello there.
Hello.
Fuck you, D&D. Fuck you, D&D. Who are all these strange people?
It looks like one of the tree people from Lord of the Rings.
Not the most social place, is it?
No. It's also very dark.
No, not dark anymore.
Queen Marjorie!
And
Oh, we have another wedding!
Oh god, it's number 4. This feels like the 4th wedding. It might actually be the 4th wedding of the season.
I think we've had more than
Show,
4.
sorry.
I think we've had more than 4.
We had... Right.
We had Daenerys and Khal Drogo. We had
Mhm.
Robb and
Oh, yeah, that's
Talisa.
true.
We had Joffrey and Marjorie. We've had Tommen and Marjorie. We had Littlefinger and Lysa Arryn. Tyrion and Sansa. Speaking of sex. Yep, that's very illegal.
Did I hurt you?
He's probably like... He's probably like 16 and the actress is probably like 35.
Yes.
All day, every day, for the rest of my life.
Wouldn't that be glorious?
My god, typical teenage boy.
Shouldn't we rest a little while? Just to catch our breath. There's no rush, is there?
Of course.
I just want to make love to my queen for the rest of my life.
Queen Marjorie sounds strange to you.
So strange.
No. Oh, she married Renly Baratheon as well. I forgot about that. But they did
Very
not
briefly.
consummate the marriage.
Oh no, yeah, they will. To be wed.
But it's not your fault. You know that, don't you? You mustn't feel guilty.
I don't feel guilty.
Oh god, she is so good at playing like, you know.
Oh yeah, she's so full of shit.
I love to say it.
I do too.
We're going to be
Sure
very
you do.
happy,
Sure you
I-
do.
I do too.
Simp, absolute simp.
It's so wonderful to have her watching over you. A lioness guarding her.
It's so full of shit.
And the king.
More illegal stuff.
But you'll always be
Drinking
her baby
underage.
boy.
To be fair, he's being supervised by an adult.
I adore
That
her.
is true.
She's always been so generous with me, so kind.
Fucking love Marjorie.
Very pretty, isn't she?
More bullshit.
Like a doll. She smiles quite a lot.
Oh, very good comparison. Because dolls are also lifeless. And Cersei's... That's really good. That's actually a really good analogy for Cersei, how to describe her.
Wouldn't you be happier in Castle Rock?
Oh, Mom, go away! I want to have sex with my wife.
What is the record? I'm sure we can break it.
Oh my god.
Oh god. Yes, make out stuff to make him look good.
Don't you look lovely?
Oh.
Marriage agrees with you. Is there ever anything I can do for you?
You're very sweet.
Tommen seems quite
She's
capable.
so good at
I
putting on a
absolutely
performance.
adore him. You raised a gallant young man. I'm
These
so
two are
grateful.
absolutely sensational.
Yeah.
Ecstatic. I really am. Exhausted, to be honest.
The ability to
What could I expect?
not only
He's
act
half
but
lion,
also
half
play a
man.
character acting well, but you can tell it's acting. You know, it's quite a talent.
In any event, judging from the king's enthusiasm, the Queen Mother will be a Queen Grandmother soon.
Wouldn't that be a lovely day?
Can you imagine the celebrations?
Oh, that's so good. Wouldn't that be lovely? That fucking delivery is so good.
Oh. I love well-written female characters. They're so
Yes.
good.
Very rare, but they do exist. There we go.
Now, what have we here?
Winterfell, like I said.
We haven't been here since season 2.
No, it's been fucking ages. And they're doing some rebuilding. Doing brickwork at college has just made me appreciate people who do buildings and shit. Or do any sort of construction.
Especially during a medieval age.
Oh god,
hello there.
fucking hell.
This fucking stain of a human.
There he is. There's our boy. Hello, Reek. His hair's gone a bit longer.
Oh god!
Oh my god, there's still... Oh, I thought they were still there, but no, those are fresh. Those are fresh bodies.
Oh, that's a female. Oh,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
fucking
Oh,
hell.
well, it's a...
We can't
oh,
hold
nice.
the North with terror alone.
You can't hold the North if you let these lesser lords.
Now that you're a Bolton by royal decree, it's It's high time you married a suitable bride.
Is that something Ramsay would be into, though? Oh no. That ain't just a random cut.
There's Moat Kellen.
Oh, Moat Kellen. Oh, you little creep.
I'll have things to say about this scene when we get to the review. Things that don't make sense.
Oh, that music though, fucking on point.
That's a lot of mud.
Probably this, yes.
Imagine the
Right
stench.
fucking day.
I'm going to show you how to ride properly.
Thank you.
I can't knight you, but I can teach you how to fight.
I suppose that's more important.
I love Podrick.
He's great. It's such a simple character, but it's a character that is always appreciated in shows like this when you have B characters.
Nothing's more hateful than failing to protect the one you love. One day I will avenge King.
God damn, this seems really fucking good.
Is it a shadow murdered?
Stannis is a man, not a shadow. And a man can be killed.
Oh, great transition.
That was fucking great. That was a really good fucking scene. God damn, that came out of nowhere.
You have many enemies in Castle Black. Have you considered sending Alistair Thorne elsewhere? Give him command of Eastwatch by the Sea.
I heard it was best to keep your enemies close.
Whoever said that didn't have many enemies.
Oh my god, I think I recognise that person. I think she's an Andor. But I
She's
might
in
be
Last
wrong.
Christmas as well.
Yes. Oh yes, she's that person. Oh my god.
No one. Ow! Cunt!
A lie. Sadly.
Fucking hell, that made me jump.
Do that again!
Who are you?
Oh, well, since you asked.
It's the first time she's changed her clothes since leaving King's Landing.
Yeah, so those... Oh, yeah, that's true. She's had those since season 1.
At least they're getting a good salt wash now. Who gave her this sword? Mr. Jon Snow.
Yep. And was given blessing by Ned when he found out. A lot of meaning behind that sword. Very Stark-heavy episode.
With the return of Winterfell, it makes sense.
Yeah. So little goes on. How is the floor so dirty?
I'm sure there's other chores to do around here.
Yeah. No, it's just swiping. Just swiping. As she said, she's been swiping for days. So what makes the floor so fucking messy all the time?
Corpse dust, I suppose.
Corpse dust.
I could not do this job.
No.
Oh dear.
Welcome. Oh no. Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Yep. That's a good look. That was a very good look.
Wow. All that brown nosy didn't pay off for him at all.
Stop! All of you!
This is, yeah.
You'll see!
Mate, none of that matters. Literally, none of that matters anymore.
He's had his drink.
Yep. Very similar to
Longclaw.
other beheadings.
The sword of Mormont. All the king watches on.
Yep.
Oh! Oh, that's horrible.
Nodded and Nod and acknowledgement.
Oh, anyway. Now we go to this. Oh, look. Oliver's wearing a beard.
You have served us well.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Thank you for that.
Which of the 7 will you worship?
Oh, the 7.
Oh my god, this is Game of Thrones roleplay.
2 is extra, you realise?
Oh my fucking god.
Which god do you want to have sex with?
What are you doing? This establishment belongs to Lord Peter Baelish. You could.
You have profaned our faith.
No to good times. No brothels for you. Oh god. Sinner. 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 Oh, not in that area. The Sparrows.
Man's private affairs ought to stay private.
I sell you.
Justice.
Young man said I'd find the High Sparrow.
Oh my god! Hello. I see you got rid of the Dalek bumps.
Hypocrisy is a boil. Lancing a boil is never pleasant. Although they could have been more careful with the blade.
My thoughts on the matter are in line with your own. The High Septon's behavior was corrosive, as was his attitude. Having a man like that reside in the Sept eats away at the faith from the inside.
Oh dear. What are we going to do with Scabbers?
Rats!
Oh! Gross.
Fucking the blood on the fucking...
message to Littlefinger
glass. Fucking hell.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear. So this is a scene where these two being in the same place makes sense.
I'll never hurt her. You have my word.
You're full of shit, Ramsay.
Full of shit.
Heard very little about you.
Crazy
Quite a
bastard.
rare thing, if lords go.
You're also full of shit, Littlefinger.
By the law of the land, she is no man's wife. Inspect her if you must.
I leave that to the brothel keeper. It's her name I need.
Oh, God.
Then I have delivered everything. I'd like to borrow one of your birds. Cersei will expect a reply.
I'd like to read the reply.
Lack of trust.
Yep.
Oh
He's
dear.
not stupid. Oh great, now... Oh, we nearly went the whole episode without this.
This is great content.
Mm.
Now this is the new Shrek and Donkey. This is Valentis. This is where Robb Stark's dead wife is from.
Reminds me of Assassin's Creed. Thank you for saying slaves out loud, Tyrion. I would have got that. This is a very religious episode. Fucking hell, where the fuck did he go?
It's even better luck to suck a dwarf's cock.
See?
Jesus Christ.
I need to speak to someone with hair.
Tyrion's just a bully at this point.
I always pay my debts. I'm well known for it.
Why would you tell her that?
This would be good if the whole Shay stuff was good. That's the thing. Oh yes, look how far he's fallen. So interesting.
No need to...
Oh, hello.
There are girls inside who'd be happy to oblige. Made some kind of mistake. Why don't you tell me what you think you're doing, and then... I'm taking you to the Queen.
I've never seen where characters end up in the same place, and it's bad for one. Oh god! Right at the end. Right at the end. Right at the end. Great. Fantastic. Cool. 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 Cool.
Okay, your initial thoughts on High Sparrow.
Overall, I mean, it was probably the best episode of the three. I think there were a couple scenes that I thought were really cool. thought there was one scene in particular that took me by surprise of how really well done it was. And stuff of the wall was great. And then there was just a couple of things that annoyed me. Mainly at the end. The last sort of 8 minutes or so were just brought me right back down to, oh yes, I remember this part of the story really sucks. Yeah, that's sort of my initial thoughts.
I mean, yeah, it is definitely the best episode of season 5 so far, for sure. But and there's quite a few highlights that we'll get into. But I do actually have I have a couple of issues as well. Yeah, there are a few things that really don't make sense. One in particular to do with Littlefinger that I have a massive issue with. But that having said that, I thought most of this episode was actually surprisingly an improvement. Not to the standard of the great Game of Thrones, but this could have fit in season 4. You know?
Yeah, could have, yeah.
But yeah, I suppose I still have mixed thoughts, like the season 5 we've had so far. I still have mixed thoughts, but this time it's much more positive than it is negative. But the negative,
definitely more positive.
The negative drop is quite sharp, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Braavos first.
Yes.
With Arya Stark.
Because I don't know what I'm about to say.
So I have mixed thoughts on Braavos. I thought there was some really good stuff and some not very good stuff. The best part is the part that's, surprise, surprise, taken straight from the book. It's when Arya Stark has to take all her belongings out of the House of Black and White.
Oh yeah, very easily. That was the best part of Braavos by quite some distance because of the meaning behind it. The actual work that's been done in the story for that scene to, be effective, because it was, along with Maisie Williams, her being able to actually act and actually put some effort in, because let's be honest, she has not had much to do this season so far.
Yeah. This episode is one of the most hilariously shit behind the scenes videos. I mean, a lot of the later seasons do. But there's a video of Dan Weiss saying, oh, she's sad to put away the sword because she likes to fight and she likes cutting things. And I'm like, no.
What?
I'm like, no.
No, he did not say that. He did not say that. That's not why she was sad.
He didn't even, this is the problem, is he's adapting this straight from the book, right? But he doesn't get why it's so
She's sad.
Because Jon Snow gave it to her because it reminds her of home.
It reminds her of her father, reminds her of her brothers, mother, sister, Winterfell. It reminds her of everything that she's fucking lost.
Yep.
That sword is the representation of the Starks to her, really.
So, funnily enough, they've accidentally written a really good scene.
Surely he's just saying that to be funny. Surely he can't actually mean that. That's fucking stupid.
I mean, unless he was trolling, it didn't come across that way.
It has to be a troll because there's no way they write that scene and not think having the Starks scene play over it. Come on, they can't be that silly. Have to be troll because that scene is referring to literally everything she's lost and the fact she still hasn't been able to let it go yet because she hid the sword. Come on, she didn't throw it in the lake. She's gonna, once this whole story part with Arya is done, she will go back and get the sword and then she'll go on for her next adventure.
I just think it's funny that he said that.
Yeah, it's very strange. But yeah, everything else in Braavos was well, they think it's very cool and mysterious, but right now nothing is happening.
Well, they obviously they show the man drinking the water and he dies, and then they have to clean his body. There's a couple of things I have to say about this. The sort of dynamic between the waif and Arya is quite cringe. Sort of she hits her and she's like, "Oh, cunt!" And then, asking you questions and not getting answers. And then
no, because it's not it just because they're quiet and mysterious does not mean it's interesting. When you don't have anything to say, that doesn't then mean the mystery of it is building. You're not doing anything. Nothing has. She's not done anything for 3 episodes. Let's be fucking real. She's done nothing.
Yes. Now
Or
the
2
other,
episodes. She was in episode 1, 2 episodes.
Yeah. The other thing is an adaptation issue that they haven't figured out how to deal with, and that's in the books when she's cleaning bodies or she's sweeping the floors or whatever she's doing around. Like there's other scenes like where she's doing dishes and lighting candles, whatever kind of service she's doing for the House of Black and White. In the books, while she's doing that, she's having thoughts about things. She's having an inner
If only we
monologue.
could explore that. If only we could explore her thought process about all of this.
Yeah.
The fact that her first fucking line is just explaining, hey, I've been sweeping the floor for like days.
Yeah,
what
so
fucking great dialogue.
So yeah, we're missing a lot of the stuff that she's thinking about, which is the really good stuff in the books, and instead they're just having the physical action.
The fact that her only good scene in this episode was a scene where she said nothing, because all the thought is on her face, in all the meaning, how the scene is presented. The best scene from her this episode is that, because of the meaning behind it. The fact there's no dialogue, the music sells the scene, the acting sells the scene. We understand why this is meaningful. But everything else is all this is all mysterious and cool, isn't it? When nothing is fucking happening. Why am I meant to fucking care about this when I don't know what's going on?
Also, the them trying to set up some kind of weird rivalry between her and the waif is really forced, and just
it's
silly.
Really strange. It's again more mysterious.
See, one of my favorite things about when she meets the waif in the books is they're actually friendly with each other, and they teach each other their languages. So the waif teaches her Bravosi, and she teaches the waif the common tongue, and that's actually quite interesting. And it's almost like they're actually trying to help each other as opposed to hurt each other. So there's kind of like setting up this weird rivalry I thought was quite unnecessary. Almost like, oh, this is Arya's antagonist. It's like, no, that's just strange. And then like Jack and Nagara's like, behave, girls. But yeah, the fact that to become a faceless man, she has to let go of everything that represents Arya Stark, including Needle, is a fantastic touch.
Yeah, it's really that's the part of like that. Why haven't they explored that earlier? Why didn't they explore it the last episode? Why isn't this stuff why isn't this stuff they're talking about? Why is she fucking sweeping the fucking floor? Why is she doing that for the episode and cleaning bodies? Come on.
It's not. You can have that happen and have the important stuff happen at the same time as her doing chores.
Yeah, exactly. It's spinning its wheels up until when it doesn't, and then it goes back to spinning wheels. We're wasting time. Whenever other than that scene at the river when she threw her stuff away, the scene was actually meaning behind it. We're not fucking doing anything.
Yeah. Apart from that, very good set design. I really liked the way it looked. Like all the statues.
Oh, the location, all that stuff, all the production stuff outside of it is excellent, as it is throughout the show. The actual narrative and story is when it's just, nothing's happening. It's just a line and nothing is spiraling in it. There's nothing interesting to talk about.
Also, thematically, this links to the whole thing in the episode about religion and the gods. They have all the
yes,
seven.
This I said near the end of the episode. This is a very religious episode. There's a lot of religion talk happening across, like, the stuff in King's Landing, obviously with the faceless men, and then in Volantis.
I really like how Jack and Hagar explained that the many-faced god is one god that encompasses all of the 7, if that makes sense. Instead of being 7 gods, it's one god with many faces, which I think is a really interesting interpretation of the religion itself. And I like his alluding to there is only one god, and we all know, we all know what his price is, and like obviously it's Vala Magulis, all men must die, Vala Dahidus, all men must serve. So yeah, that was also very good too. I think there is something to be said about, because they've introduced this weird sort of rivalry between her and the waif, they're putting Jack and Nagar in scenes where he's having to try and be funny, and I don't think that works. Like, it's not the same kind of humor he had in season 2.
The humor works with him is because of Arya's reaction, because of what Arya knows and thinks.
Yeah.
In contrast to him.
Like, one of the funniest scenes in Harrenhal was when she desperately says, I need to use another wish to kill another person, and he's just like, not right now, not right now, and she's like, yes, right now, and he just rolls his eyes. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
actually funny. Whereas
I
this
feel like
is...
he's gotten more mysterious in this season than he was in the previous seasons, like in season 2.
Yeah, but it seems almost like he's just doing it to be like a dick.
Yeah, seemingly, yeah.
Yeah, so I have mixed thoughts on Bravos, but the good stuff was really good. Let's go to King's Landing. We have the wedding of Tommen and Marjorie.
We did.
Tommen is in his honeymoon phase, and he's being completely, you know, he's in love with Marjorie.
He's on strings. He's on strings right now.
Absolutely.
Marjorie's
Absolutely on
pulling the
strings. He also asked his mother to leave to Casterly Rock.
Because she would be happy there.
How about you give your give your thoughts and break down the sort of Tommen, Cersei, Marjorie stuff in this episode?
This is really good building blocks, I think, for this sort of back and forth between Cersei and Marjorie. I think their scenes together in previous seasons are very entertaining. It's two people who are trying to pull strings, and whenever they're interacting with each other, there's very clear facade on both of them, and it's really fun to watch. It's really, like I said during the episode, there is such talent in acting where you have two characters who are putting up facades, but they're acting in such a way within that the characters themselves, where we as viewers can see the facade in how they deliver comparison to how they normally act. And it's really fun. It's always great to see how these two interact with each other. It was like some of the best stuff they've done in a while.
Yeah, the scene between Cersei and Marjorie was absolutely exceptional.
The line of how that scene opened up of her trying to like make Tommen seem like really like cool or like impressive or whatever you have it, like make him look good. It was like, you know, are you trying to set a new record?
Yeah, she's really...
What is the record? I'm sure we can break it.
She's really rubbing it into Cersei like, oh yes, I'm having sex with your son, by the way, just to let you know. And he's very, very good at it. And he does a lot. He's very exhausting.
But also the fact it's, you know, talking to all the other girls who were in that scene to sort of rumour around that he is like what kind of king he is, what kind of person he is behind closed doors. It's very smart on Marjorie's part. You know, still trying to pull these strings around King's Landing. It's very, very interesting to watch.
Yep, and the acting between Lena Headey and Natalie Dormer was top of the class.
Yeah, like I said, the facade the two characters bring on is so fun. It's so fun and cool, and like really, it's the best part for me for those two. Like, it's always great.
So many layers. Like one of the best scenes we've had this season so far, for sure, between all of them.
Fucking calling at him like he's half lion, half stag. That is fucking...
Oh, yeah. And I love it. And she's basically saying, oh, yeah, your son is just like Robert. And he fucks just like Robert.
Yeah, that's going to make Cersei feel great to hear.
Yeah.
It's not going to trigger her at all.
The power dynamic has changed ever since Tywin died and
Dude,
she married
the fucking
Tommen.
expression on her face and delivery and tone when she said, wouldn't that be a lovely day?
You know what I love about it is that in the past, it's been Marjorie has kind of been more like more of the likable character compared to Cersei, but now the roles are reversed. Now Marjorie's actually more of a bitch than Cersei is, and Cersei's quite relatable.
Because she's starting to take control. She's now in her position where she's been trying to get to for ages now.
Well,
and now she's here. Yeah.
In that scene after Renly dies, she says to Littlefinger, I want to be the queen, and now she finally is the queen.
Yeah, she finally, and now she's starting to pull the strings to improve her situation, which is just, you know, very cool to see.
I love after her sarcasm, the hurt you can see on Cersei's face, and the way she says, if there's anything I can do. And she almost sounds like she's in pain when she says it. When she's almost saying like, please, I just want my son to be, you know, I just want to be a mother to my son. And Marjorie's taking him away from her. And Tommen, because Marjorie is manipulating him, he's saying, why don't you go back to Casterly Rock? Wouldn't you like to go home? And Cersei knows that's Marjorie's words coming through her son's mouth, and it makes her absolutely sick to the stomach to hear it. Exceptional.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely
Yeah.
exceptional writing. It's so good. Where was this? Where's this for other parts of the season?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Man, it's so whiplashy, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's like the word to use for like the quality of the writing is erosion. So like there's bits that are eroding away, but there are bits that are still there. It's really really strange.
Definitely. Yes.
It's like not the whole city isn't on fire, just a few buildings. But some of them still stand tall. And then of course we have the other half of the King's Landing, which I also thought was fantastic, was the whole thing of the High Septon in Littlefinger's brothel, which connected up to the storyline in the north. And it also connected to the theme of the faith in the episode. You had the High Septon at the brothel picking between the 7 gods.
Yeah.
Oliver as his Septon, wearing the beard. He gets taken out by Lancel and the Sparrows, and he gets whipped in the streets.
Yep, humiliated.
And there's that scene in the small council. I love the detail where Pycel's like, these things should be kept in private. And Cersei looks at him because she knows exactly why he's saying that. As a result of that, Cersei goes to visit the High Sparrow, who is played by Jonathan Pryce. Once again,
Moffat's
I thought...
first master.
Yep. Once again, I thought everything to do with this was also really good. I really liked all this.
He's so charismatic.
Yeah.
Just that, listening, I literally could have just watched him talk for like the entire episode, honestly.
He has some of the best lines. He has like, hypocrisy is like a boil, and it's hard to stab, but they could have used a better blade. I love that the little detail of like, I suppose I wouldn't assume what you think of the matter. And then of course, when she he thinks that his head's on a spike, but when she reveals that the High Septon is in the black cells, you can see his face almost go, "Oh, this is an opportunity." And almost he's like, "Oh, this," like he's almost got this realization of, "Oh, actually, she's on my side."
Yes.
And I like that whole almost like subtle egotistical thing of I tell them that no one's special, and then they think I'm special for saying it.
Yes, very fun, very good watch, I'd say.
So it seems like with the faith in King's Landing, the High Septon is in the black cells after having married Tommen and Marjorie, his last wedding. And it seems like the Sparrows are going to have more influence over the faith in King's Landing now, so it's going to become a lot more religious and a lot more, like extreme. Stick to the commandments sort of thing. So yeah, excellent. And I think from an acting perspective, I think Lena Headey was one of the MVPs of this episode. She was exceptional. I loved everything.
She delivered different ranges in this episode, which was quite fun to watch. Had this sort of facade with Marjorie. You had her being actually like probably the most real she can be with Tormund, and then having her, with a conversation with the High Sparrow, just sort of her demeanor there. It was very fun. Got like different sides of like who Cersei is, which I thought was quite cool, quite fun to watch.
Yeah, and then of course you got a little scene with Qyburn slicing open a rat.
Yep, that was fun. Very not gross.
A very large man under a blanket shakes.
Yeah, we once Cersei left the room, we hung on that shot for a long while, and I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a jump scare kind of thing here, and there was. It was the body jumping up, and him just going shush. It's like they're doing a really good job at making him just so like insane in a way, just in sort of like how he operates and how he looks at his job and how he looks at his experiments. It's just really well done. It's like subtle in a way because
I love
the actor does a great.
I love it
job.
because in season 3 he was considered a protagonist character.
He was considered a vulnerable character.
He was saved by Robb and Talisa, and then he fixed Jaime's hand.
He was very much seen as he's a vulnerable person. Obviously, place got attacked. He was very badly injured. He became of use for our good guys. But since then, he's been more revealed of what he really is, and it's been such a slow little you know, as it's gone on,
It's
slow
amazing.
sort
It's
of
like,
reveal of
it's
who
like
he
the,
is.
in terms of cause and effect, you think had Robin Talisa
Mhm.
not got there in time to save his life, how things would be different. Jaime Lannister could have gotten an infection that killed him.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Very good stuff from him
Yeah,
consistently.
I thought everything in King's Landing was exceptional. Really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Big
Yeah,
fan of
I
it.
agree.
Cersei is, once again, she's one of the MVPs of the season so far. She's really good.
Absolutely.
Now that Tywin's gone, she's kind of getting the majority focus. They have a lot of source material to work with because A Feast for Crows is when she starts to get POV chapters. Now, we're not getting as much as the books, obviously, like it is with every storyline, but the stuff we are getting is translating very well. With her losing grip over her son and also with her rearranging the faith. So, yeah, exception. I also love the performance for Lancel Lannister. Like the way that, just the intensity of it. Like, you are a sinner. And of course, this all links to, because they made mention of the King's Landing story to Peter Baelish, because obviously that was his brothel that Oliver is looking over as Baelish is elsewhere. And Cersei had Qyburn use a raven to send a message to Littlefinger, so that all connects up with what's going on in the north. And of course, she still thinks he's in the area, and he isn't. Now, I will mention, this episode does, with that storyline, it does seem like a lot of time passes, which isn't terrible, because you can assume that like many days have passed. But this is one of the examples that we've noticed of a lot of time passes between scenes.
Yes, exactly, because obviously he writes the letter to Littlefinger, and then literally the next scene is him receiving the letter.
You also remember that they go to Moat Cailin first and then to Winterfell, which is quite a distance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this episode, a lot of time passed during this episode, which is sort of kind of rare. We don't really see that too often.
Well, I think this is also because they're trying to squash the broad strokes of two massive books into a season.
Yeah, in terms of that, it did feel that sort of like a sudden, like, oh yeah, they've already received the letter, so meaning a lot of time has passed already. It's like a lot to take in that regard.
So Moat Cailin is the part of this episode I have the most extremely mixed thoughts on. Because it has my least favorite thing in the episode, and it also has my favorite thing in the episode. So my least favorite.
Funny how they come back to back, really.
Yep. So my least favorite thing in this episode is the fact that Littlefinger wants to marry Sansa Stark to Ramsay Bolton. This makes absolutely no fucking sense.
This feels very strange from him.
For Littlefinger to want to give her away to the Boltons, given that he knows what they're like, is ridiculous. It's so out of character. This is not at all what Littlefinger would do.
This would feel like he would lose control.
Yep. It
More
makes
so
no
than
sense.
anything. This feels like such a... Because they're trying to... What they try to justify it as is probably like him building trust with the Boltons. But I feel like in this kind of situation, it's very possible that Boltons can very much convert Sansa to the point where Littlefinger is out of the picture in a way, when he can't control what's happening with Sansa, which has sort of been his whole, this is what he's been trying to do for the past season now.
The justification he gives is that, he'll get her to get revenge on them, but I don't see how.
The way I interpret that is him trying to be, taking control and trying to push Sansa to do it.
Yeah, and this is to
whether that it depends on how that's revealed in what he's actually trying to do, whether that is what he's actually doing or not, from my perspective.
Yep, and I'll give a little explanation as to what the hell the showrunners have done here. So, what happens in the books is they stay in the Vale, and it's revealed that Littlefinger wants to marry Sansa to a man named Harold Harding, who is from the Vale. The idea is that by having that marriage, she will have control of. She will become the heir to that whole region, and they will conspire to kill, little sweet Robin, the little child. So his power will be lost, and it will transfer directly to the widower of Lysa Arryn, who was Littlefinger, which is why he married her in season 4. Or at least it was in the Song of Swords in the books. So because it would transfer to him, he would have control of the Eyrie, and Sansa would have control of the rest of the Vale by marrying Harold Harding. And then on the other side, the betrothal. So to put in perspective, the idea is they want Ramsay to marry Arya Stark, right? Because she was betrothed to one of the Freys in the first, at the start, by Catelyn and Robb, right? Walder Frey wanted Arya Stark and Robb Stark to marry one of his children. Now, to repay Roose Bolton for his part in the Red Wedding, Walder Frey allowed him to have his son marry Arya and take Winterfell, so that he has a Stark wedded into the Bolton line, so that the Boltons have a legit claim to Winterfell once Ramsay produces a child, right? So it would mean the Bolton line would officially own Winterfell because they've married Arya Stark, who is Lady of Winterfell, their knowledge, or at least she has a claim to it. Of course, Arya Stark is nowhere to be seen because she's in Braavos, right? So instead, they take Sansa's friend, Jane Poole, and if you remember, Jane Poole was the one sitting next to her in the first episode of season 1, the one that whispers in her ear about Joffrey.
Mm-hmm.
So Jane Poole plays much of a role in the books, and what happens is after Ned Stark's death, Jane Poole basically gets captured by the Lannisters and just taken and owned, because her father also dies. And the Lannisters basically give Jane Poole to the Boltons as a token of, you helped us with the Red Wedding, so we will give you Jane Poole, and we will say that it's Arya. Or at least the idea is that they're pretending it's Arya when it's actually not Arya. So the idea is that they say that Ramsay has married Arya, but he hasn't. He married a girl who is of similar age and a similar demographic, like she has brown hair and everything. And the person who mostly knows it's not Arya is Theon, because obviously he's in Winterfell. But of course, Dave and Dan didn't want to do that, so instead of having Sansa marry Howard Harding and Ramsay marry Jane Poole, they decided to combine them and just have Sansa marry Ramsay to compound the story together and give Sansa more to do. But the problem with that is that not only does this make Littlefinger completely out of character because he's giving her away to the Boltons, which would mean he's doing the polar opposite of what he wants to do, which is have control over her. But the other problem is, for Sansa's character arc, it regresses her because she's just grown out of this phase. And she's dyed her hair black to be Elaine. And, she's supposed to be taking back her power now, instead of becoming more in control of her situation, even though she is being chess played by Littlefinger. But she now is being married to Ramsay and going back into oppression. It's regressing her character back to what it was when she was at King's Landing. So I think this is a monumental mistake. It fucks up Littlefinger and it fucks up Sansa Stark's character. Very, very major issue with that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue and the acting is good. There's using the Stark theme and the presentation and everything. That's all great. And the whole thing of Bruce wanting Ramsay to marry someone, that scene's all fantastic. The stuff with actually, at Winterfell with Roose Bolton, with Ramsay, and with Theon.
That stuff was really great.
That stuff is fine, because that's not out of character. That works. It's the stuff on the other side that doesn't work, with Sansa and Littlefinger. I will say, though, I do like the detail of Theon is trying to avoid Sansa, so she doesn't see him. Because she knows that he took over Winterfell. And the common knowledge is that he burned Bran and Rickon, even though he didn't.
Yeah, that is current knowledge.
So yeah, I did really like that. And, I do like the dynamic between Roose Bolton and Littlefinger. The whole thing of Roose still doesn't trust him because he thinks that he's aligned with the Lannisters, potentially, and he wants to read all his letters. I do think that works. It's just the whole thing of why does Littlefinger give Sansa to Roose Bolton? Like, none of this works. If this was Littlefinger giving Jane Poole to Roose Bolton, that would make sense. That would actually work.
Yeah.
But because he's giving Sansa, it just fucks everything up. And this is, for me, like, this is the first major blunder they do with Littlefinger in the show, and it really upsets his character massively. And it makes him look like an idiot, to be honest, which is the polar opposite of who he is. So yeah, I have big beef with that. That being said, on the other half of Moat Cailin, you have Brienne of Tarth and Podrick, which is probably the best scene in the episode.
Oh, it's definitely my favourite scene of the episode.
Yeah.
Closely followed by another, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, this scene was surprisingly fucking great. Really good at showing how much Renly meant to her and how kind he was and how she describes it and talks about it and paints that story. Really fucking good. And how this, is fueling her for her motivation to kill Stannis.
Yeah.
Yeah, this scene was fucking great.
I mean, my favourite scene that Brienne appears in the show is the JB bathtub scene. But in terms of a scene for her character specifically, I think it might be this.
For her specifically, and for her as a character, this is like up there. That's probably her best scene so far.
Yeah, and it's we're no surprise. It comes straight from the books because it's written by George R. R. Martin and it's brilliant. I love the story she tells about the boys saying, "Oh, Brienne the Beauty, let's dance with her," but it was all a joke, and they were all laughing at her, saying that she was ugly. But then Renly Baratheon danced with her to, make her feel
because
better.
he was just kind. It wasn't about wanting her. It wasn't about loving her. It was literally just because he's a good person.
That's like an example of someone using their power for a good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really
it was a really good fucking scene. Really good.
Yeah, it adds even more to Renly Baratheon's character posthumously.
Yeah, it does. No, it does. It really does, and it paints. It builds her character in terms of what her motivation is and sort of what Renly meant to her.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really well just told story. And again, I think as I said this during the reaction, I really like characters like Podrick in media. In not in the same way, but it reminds me of the same kind of thing of Will from Doctor Who. These noble, no pun intended, but these noble characters who are just good people and will do good things to other people, but there's so much character behind it. Those characters who aren't the main focus, but they are just really good people surrounding in characters who are majorly conflicted with things. It's always fun to watch, to have this person who is just such a good person to people and it be like great conflict with other characters. It's no surprise to me that Podrick is someone who would be a clear favorite in terms of likability to people. He's a very likable character.
Yeah, and I like how they resolve their conflict. I mean, obviously it's referencing the Hound scene, which is a bit dumb, but
yes,
I like how it's the stroppiness she showed in the previous 2 episodes has been resolved here, and she wants to train him to be a knight, which is really cool. And obviously, from her point of view, she's like, well, I can't be a knight because I'm a woman, but I can at least train someone else to be a knight. Yeah, real good stuff. I will get back to this scene just in a bit, but I also would like to mention, I thought this episode had a lot of disingenuous bullshit from a lot of characters, a lot of lying. And one of my favorite versions of this was Ramsay Bolton saying to Littlefinger, "I will take good care of her." That was really funny. Being like, "Oh, I promise I will not hurt her." It's just yeah, obviously you will. Obviously you will. And of course, at the end of the Brienne scene, she referenced Stannis, and it did a cut straight to Stannis, which I thought was a great bit of editing and direction. To cut straight from that to that. Of course, we got a scene between Stannis and Jon, and they mentioned they were talking about the wildlings. You could behead them now that you're Lord Commander. I really like the dynamic between them of Jon now saying we now get the scene where he refuses Stannis' offer to make him Jon Stark of Winterfell, and he explains why. I like it how Stannis didn't get what he wanted, but he admires Jon's choice. He understands it, I also like the whole thing of like, what are you going to do about Alistair Thorne? He makes a suggestion about about keeping it. Jon says like, oh, I thought it was keep your enemies close, and then Stannis is like, whoever said that didn't have many enemies. That was a really good line. I like the subtlety of when they bring up the free folk, the wildlings. They cut to Ollie. Obviously, Ollie's parents were massacred by them, so there's a lot of tension there for him. So yeah, I really liked the dynamic between them, and then they gave Davos Seaworth a scene with Jon as well, talking about Stannis is very complicated.
Yes.
And he explains to Jon, you say you don't want to be political, but you are inherently by being Lord Commander of the Night's Watch and Protector of the Realm. You are political, not by
exactly.
choice.
Yeah,
you just are, and you have to make a choice.
It's
you
really
have to do
good.
Something.
Yeah, here's pinpointing out. One of the last lines of the vow is like really. I really like that quite a bit. It's the best thing he's done this season so far. He's done nothing so far. So nice to have him actually have a scene with a character and actually, be characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as the Boltons rule the North will suffer. So they are very much setting up, Jon will soon have probably have conflict with the Boltons at some point, which is only natural considering they are the reason most of the Starks are dead.
Mm-hmm. But he's not going to do it as Jon Stark because he wants to be the Lord Commander.
No, exactly. He takes the Night's Watch, as was shown in the scene after, not long after. It means quite a lot to him. He takes it very fucking seriously.
This leads me on to one of my favourite Jon Snow scenes in the whole show, and that is the beheading of Janos Slynt.
This scene was great.
Love this scene. This and the Brienne scene are contending for the highlight of the episode. This is so good.
Highlight of the season so far.
Yeah, incredible. This is and obviously not surprised. This is straight from the book. This is like George R. R. Martin. This is George R. R. Martin classic, and it makes me sad knowing how Jon ends up at the end of the show, because this is like him at his peak. This is Jon at his best.
It's no surprise that Mauler has used this scene as such an indication of who Jon is as a character.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he did use this during one of his Game of Thrones rages.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite Jon scenes in Game of Thrones. It's so damn good. It's peak
because
Jon Snow.
Season 1 Jon might not have done it, but he's a character that's grown quite a lot, and he very much takes being Lord Commander very seriously, and he has learned who this person is. He is a coward. He doesn't take it seriously, and he's paid the price.
I love the little journey in the previous scene. Stannis was saying, "Don't keep your enemies close." Anyone said that doesn't have many enemies, and then, obviously, we get the scene with Jon saying that wasn't an offer, that was a command. Are you refusing to obey my command? Of course, Slynt thinks he's protected, but Thorne doesn't even protect him from that.
No, because he, as much as he doesn't like Jon, he is Lord Commander, and he as former Lord Commander, he takes that seriously as well.
Oh yeah, he respects the Night's Watch to an absolute T.
Yeah, exactly. That's his character.
Everything he does is for the best interest of the Wall, of the Watch.
You can see even before he steps away, that look he gives him, is just very fucking good. In terms of him as a person.
That one look he gives is, "Damn you, Snow, you're right." It's like that. And of course, we get, any last words. And Janos Slynt kind of sums up his whole character in that little speech he gives at the end.
I'm afraid. I've always been afraid, because he's a coward.
Yeah.
He was put in a position where he didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, and the last two times Jon wanted to behead someone, he didn't do it. With Ygritte and with the farmer. But this time, he actually did it.
Because of who the person is, really.
Yeah, and he's finally...
as we've said, he has grown, and it's a character that he could cost a lot of people their lives in this other Wall. He really could, because that's the sort of person he is, and he has already been proven to be a coward. and hiding with a woman in the while the wildlings attacked.
He also has to establish respect with the rest of the Night's Watch. They have to understand that
you break your vows, you pay punishment because you took your vows.
And one of my favorite details is after he beheads him, he looks up and Stannis gives him a nod.
Mm-hmm.
That scene is just incredible. This is what Game of Thrones is all about. This stuff right here.
This sort of character conflict.
Yeah. Like you put the Brienne scene and you put this scene in season 1, it would fit right in. It's this kind of stuff that, in terms of quality, that Game of Thrones that's what it's made of. So yeah, thumbs up. Massive thumbs up.
This scene was great.
Exceptional. Oh, I forgot to mention when Sansa greeted Ramsay in Winterfell, they showed a shot of Miranda looking on jealously, which was a nice show don't tell moment.
Yeah, that was very, very, very cool. Very interesting.
So yeah, there was some real good stuff at Castle Black and King's Landing this episode for sure. And obviously the Brienne scene of Moat Cailin. Awesome.
Yes. Awesome.
Now, let's finish the episode with Volantis. Almost forgot that this scene happened at the end. Okay. So
this whole 8 minutes sucked.
This is like such a worse version of what actually happens in the source material, because it's like, where do I begin? So you have like shit comedy at the start with like the whole, I don't want to be looking at your fucking face. Can't remember the last person I saw. He's like playing with the window, and then they get to Volantis. I do like the whole thing of they find that religious sort of cult that worships the Lord of Light, and she stares Tyrion right in the eye. I thought that was a nice moment. That was quite well done. And then they get to the brothel, and there's a Daenerys cosplayer, and we see Ser Jorah Mormont looking on painfully.
I don't know how I feel about that. That just feels strange. I don't know. Like,
so here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I guess the justification would be he went to that brothel because he knows that it's the closest. Like he obviously loves Daenerys, right? If he goes to a brothel,
I mean just the cosplay in general. Like, would that be her look be so well known at this point?
Well, she's dressed the way
Especially
she
that look, because she was dressed like that in season 3.
Yeah, that's her Astapor look. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say
it feels a bit meta. I don't know.
I would say the time has passed enough for that.
No, it feels a bit meta. I don't know. That's just me. It's not a big massive thing. The more pressing issue in that scene is a certain character happening to be there just as they are.
Yeah, so this has been moved to Volantis because the version of the scene that exists in the source material is in a different city that's close by, and in terms of like traveling, when you look at geographically speaking, you look at where Mormont would have gone from Meereen and traveled west to, it kind of makes sense where Tyrion, because of the way he was traveling down the river, in the Sorrows, past the Sorrows, them naturally meeting each other at that point is possible. But it is definitely like, I mean, if you're being best faith, it is possible, but it's not like particularly likely.
Like to be in the same place at the same time is like, it's like almost impossible to be in that sort of position in the same place. It's the exact same thing of what happened last episode. It's the same thing. That's another instance of characters happening to be in the same establishment.
Well, I mean,
so happened where it's fucking...
the explanation they give in the source material is that Mormont had been staying around that area for a long time. He'd been there for a while, and like he didn't just get there. Like,
it's the fact that Tyrion is the one who picks this random place. It's a brothel. He'll just pick it, and he happens to be there.
Yeah. The issue is Do you know what the main issue with this whole thing is that Volantis is too big for this to happen.
No, exactly. It's a fucking city.
Yeah,
It's a city.
Whereas the place where it happens in the books is tiny. It's this very, very small village. And so the likelihood of them bumping into each other is actually more possible in a small village than it is in a massive city. And what happens is that after that meeting, when he captures him, he takes him to Volantis. So the big city stuff happens after. He takes him to the city, whereas at first they meet in a much smaller place. And so I think that would work better. But I suppose they again, this is to do with the issue with the compounding is that you're sacrificing logic and you're sacrificing sort of the tenable possibility of this event happening. I mean, it's already quite, stretching it at first, but when you make it a huge city like Volantis, it makes it even more unlikely. I have another issue with this scene, is that how they've changed Tyrion's character. So what happens in the novels is that he now this is they probably did this because they want to make Tyrion a likable character and they don't want to do this on TV. But obviously, if you remember what I said in the season 4 finale review about how in the books he kills Shay in cold blood without self-defense, and he becomes basically the character that he was at the end of the trial. Is who he becomes after the trial, especially once he's seen Shay in his father's bedroom. And what he does in the books is that instead, because in this scene he's like, I want to have sex with you, and he's just like, for some reason I can't. No one's more surprised than me. I guess I'll go for a piss. The idea is that he's lost the will to have sex, which is interesting. Whereas what they do in the books,
or even just because what I want to do is it because of that connection he had with Shay and it broke down so badly, he can't have any sort of affection for anything, and that's him refusing to have that because he knows what he's like. That would work if the Shay stuff was actually good.
Yeah, that's true. Whereas in the books, obviously Shay was lying to him and deceiving him, so he was actually bullshitted out of it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that would work with here, like him being deceived in that way would like
now, what happens
work. But with the whole Shay thing, it's so fucking shit in this show.
Now, what happens in the books is he goes into such a boiling rage over everything that he starts to hate people. And what he does, and this is really graphic, but what he does is he actually rapes the prostitute. And then straight after that, he hates himself for it. Like, he looks in the mirror and he says, "What have I become?" So the whole thing of he's become a monster and he hates himself that he's become a monster. Whereas here, he's just sort of like, oh, I can't love anyone anymore. I feel so weak. And it's a very different direction for the character. Again, this comes down to Dave and Dan not having the balls to make him, horrible, do horrible acts. They want Tyrion to be likable. But it makes him a much less interesting character as a result. And it makes him a really just sort of like, him and Varys are just sort of like a cringy joke couple, and it's not good. Whereas I much prefer in the books how Varys has nothing to do with it and he's having to travel with strangers, so he has no one to connect with, and that's why he becomes so irritated. And also, in terms of cause and effect, there's a scene in like later on in season 5 that happens before the brothel scene in the books because of the geography of it. And he went through a near-death experience, so it's natural to see why he's having such a breakdown. Whereas here, he isn't. He's just sort of like, I can't love anyone anymore after what happened with Shay. And once again, like I said, his anger is not just about Shay in the books, it's about Tysha as well. And how, she actually loved him and Tywin lied that she was a whore. So this scene directly is fucked up by the season 4 finale. And they've changed his character even more. Yeah. So this is, it's just... They've basically just taken a scene that exists in the books because they needed to have Jorah Mormont capture him for the story beats to happen correctly. Because the idea is that they want to have the same thing happen where Jorah Mormont captures him and takes him to Daenerys. Like, that's the idea. But because they've changed so much about the story, it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't work, and the character doesn't really it doesn't really work the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this again is just a problem of when you change too much, you can't adapt it straight. You can't adapt it the same way because you changed too much about the story for it to work. One of the biggest things being the location being different. One of the biggest things being the meaning behind Tyrion's connection with the Hall being completely different. One of the biggest differences being that Varys is there. The fact that he hasn't gone through a life-threatening experience before coming to this place. The fact that it's not in a small village. The fact of the timing between geographically when the difference between when Jorah leaves Meereen and Tyrion leaves King's Landing is different. It's much closer together. Yeah, it doesn't really work. And some of the dialogue was quite cringe, honestly. Some of the jokes. And it just... This doesn't feel like Varys at all, does it? He's not scheming, he's not a spider, he's just there. He's just Tyrion's, like, you know, petulant husband, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, though,
yeah.
Of course, though, the implication of it is that Jorah Mormont has taken Tyrion and wants to take her to Daenerys.
Yeah. That whole, again, just there being in the same place. And it's bad luck for Tyrion, he gets captured, and now, yeah, that scene just annoyed me, because the chance of that, fucking super unlikely. Tyrion has really deteriorated massively.
This was a very character-focused episode, wasn't it? Lots of dialogue.
It was. It was very Stark heavy and very religious heavy, I think, the main sort of like focus of the episode. Which, you know, those were the good parts.
The last scene in Volantis felt like a different show. It was so weird.
It felt like the tone was just so different from everything else.
So the episode was received with positive reviews, highlighting Jon's storyline and the High Sparrow's introduction. To be fair, those were two of the highlights for sure.
Those were.
Critical response to changes from the books were mixed. They seem to be reserving judgment on decision to bring Sansa to Winterfell. Hilary Buser says it was massively gross to watch Tommen counter-sleep with Marjorie knowing in A Feast for Crows he's still playing pretend with his beloved Kitty. Well, I mean, the thing is, in the show, he's much older than he is in the books. Like, in the books, he's like, what, 8, 9, 10 years old? Whereas here, he's supposed to be like 13 or 14. I mean, it's still noncy, but it's not as noncy. You know, at least he's going through puberty, which is technically, you know, it's historically accurate. But that does actually present one big difference, is that they have consummated the marriage in the show, whereas they didn't in the books, because Tommen's too young. And the idea was that they were going to consummate the marriage when he comes of age. I also would like to present the conundrum of Sansa Stark is legally married to Tyrion Lannister. And they're going to marry her to Ramsay, which is an interesting development, to say the least. And the difference is that with Marjorie, is that Renly Baratheon and Joffrey are both dead. So her remarrying is actually fine because she's a widow. Whereas Tyrion Lannister is very much still alive. So it does present some potential legal clashes when it comes to marrying Sansa to Ramsay. Whereas the idea with... I mean, I guess they could say it goes under old God's law as opposed to the Seven. That is one thing they could say. And I think with Littlefinger in the books, the idea is that her marriage to Harold Harding would happen at the point when it becomes legal. Because she hasn't done it yet. Obviously, he is aware she's still married to Tyrion Lannister. But I imagine he has some way of circumventing that. Whereas in the show, they are straight up just going to marry her to Ramsay. Which is certainly interesting, to say the least. So... raises a few questions about the legality of it, especially because the Boltons are aligned with the Lannisters. And, you know, you would think that the Crown would want to recognize the marriage to the Lannisters that Sansa has, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we'll see if they deal with that later.
We shall see.
It is written by David Benioff and Dan Weiss. I would like to say this is an improvement on their previous writing, but the thing is, you have to remember, is a lot of the really good stuff in this episode comes straight from the books. There's not really them, is it?
Yeah. And their sort of standard is it's not very high right now.
A lot of the
you
good
can
stuff
very
in
much
this
tell
episode is...
when you can just tell when stuff is there. It's like truly 100%.
You know, they're pretty much, with all the really good stuff, they're standing on the shoulders of George Martin's writing. And with the stuff that's not good, it's the stuff that isn't so good is the stuff where they've made the most changes. Outside of obviously Tom, and that's different. The Tom and Marjorie Cersei, they actually have made quite a few changes, but thankfully that seems to have paid off. But with the stuff with like Arya and not having her inner monologue, and with Tyrion and the whole Volantis thing, and with Littlefinger marrying Sansa to Ramsay instead of Harold Harding, these are the things that don't work because they've made the most changes. But the stuff that works is the stuff that's the same or really similar. So can we really give them praise for this? I guess I'd give them praise in the sense that they've decided to keep things that work and emphasize the things that work as opposed to get rid of them. What I will say is, I will give them praise for the Davos Seaworth scene, because that is new. So obviously he's not there. He's not at the wall in the book, so
yeah,
they did
so
well
that
with
stuff is new, and that's actually quite interesting.
So I will say that Dave and Dan's adaptation is a mixed bag, because there's things that they did well that was new, and there's stuff that they
there's
didn't
things
do
they
so
do
well.
well, and there's things that they really dropped the ball with.
I think it's kind of a common thing of it's the small character moments that have no implications on the world that they do well. Like the things that don't have massive changes to the plot or the world building. It's just the small little character details they do well. Like for example, Podrick was not in that scene in the books. It was Brienne's inner monologue. Obviously, we needed her to speak to someone, so they had Podrick come in earlier. And by having Podrick's side of it, it adds another layer to that whole scene.
Yeah, and it adds the fact that she's even telling that story to him says a lot.
Yeah. Whereas you don't have Arya telling her inner monologue to the Wave because there are odds. So, and I feel like a lot of that stuff in Bravos would be better if her and the Wave were actually friends, and she was telling the Wave about herself. I think that would have worked way better than what we got.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like the thing about the issues with the whole Tyrion, Jorah Mormont, and Varys thing is the massive changes they've made to like the world building and the plot and like the big chess pieces as opposed to just the small isolated character stuff. And it's made the characters worse because you're having to change how they operate as a result of those big changes. And Dave and Dan aren't talented enough to come up with replacements that are worthy, that are at that same standard. So that's where you get the issues, really. Is when you make big changes like who people marry, for example. That's a massive change. The direction was by Mark Mylod. I actually thought he did, for the most part, an excellent job.
Yeah, so in the direction, as I said, even in the scenes that I'm not a fan of, the direction is always on point.
Yeah, the only thing that is a bit unfortunate, and I know I've done a bit of research about this, is that they couldn't afford the best lighting for this season because of the budget, and that's why some of the dark scenes don't look so good, like in the interior, like inside the House of Black and White is quite grey.
Yeah, I did notice that during the episode.
Yeah, and I can reveal that in season 6, HBO increased the budget so they get better lighting in the interior scenes, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that might be needed because that is just quite dark.
Yeah. But yeah, outside of the limited budget in terms of the lighting, I thought Mark Mylod did a fantastic job with the camera work and the, all of the blocking and everything. Like the set design, the focus. the thematic focus on the gods, using those figures like inside the House of Black and White with all the faces, and like the brothel scene. And obviously I love the bit where Brienne stokes the fire while talking about Stannis, and it cuts right to Stannis at the wall. Probably my favorite director's scene though is the beheading of Janos Slynt though. That was so well done. That's like, the direction in that scene is bordering on iconic. Like the way that it's shot, it's used so many times in video essays because it's such a memorable visual. All of the way that it's cut and edited and everything. It's fantastic. I do actually think he did a good job at slowly revealing Jorah, because I don't think you would have seen it, but you can see his arm put a cut on a table before you see his face, and he's like blurred out at first. And he's in like the foreground. So they did really well with that. And I liked the slow sort of focused direction when it came to the Brienne Podrick scene, just allowing the actors to do their thing.
Yes, that was great. That was good stuff.
Same as last season, all the stuff at Moat Cailin, it looks really great. It's a great location for filming. It really suits it. Although there was one noticeable moment when Sansa curtsies, it does go a bit blurry, doesn't it?
Yeah, I felt it really, really weird. I don't know if it was to do with the frame rate or they did something with the actual footage. It was very strange. It didn't look right.
It almost looks like they did like a slow motion with a bit of
whether they slowed it down, so I don't know. It didn't look great.
And it has like interpolated frames or something, like, you know,
something like that. I'm not
motion
sure.
tracking.
Didn't look
strange. Yeah. And then of course we had the music by Raymond Javadi, who is always sensational. Really liked all of it. Especially the first track we're going to be listening to, which is one of my favorite atmospheric tracks in all of Game of Thrones, from Raymond Javadi. I listen to this one quite often because I just think it sounds so awesome, and that is House of Black and White. Which obviously is the atmospheric music for the Bravos scenes. I think this perfectly captures what they're going for here. Oh, so good.
Very atmospheric.
Very, very fitting of the location. Once again, he's doing something very different. When they introduce a new place, he introduces new music to go with it.
Yeah, definitely. Really good tone to it.
Very good tone. And the pacing of it, the sort of the almost spiritual nature of it. It's so separate to the drama, and you can tell that this translates well into what Jack and Nagars was saying, about this is not a journey that's going to be done in one day. This is something where you're going to have to go through. You're going to have to go through a lot. This is a journey of patience to become no one, because once you become no one, you don't have any urgency. You don't have that drive for power. You don't have this needs to be done here, this. Like you're doing things that are inherently stressful, like wiping dead bodies clean, but you are doing it without stress, which is fucked up. But I love this song so much. I love the strings, and like it sort of builds up the mystery, and I love the turn it does where it goes almost like there's a bit of a shocking tragedy to it all as well.
Definitely.
And then, of course, in the second half, the doom, 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 doom. Yeah, very atmospheric, very fitting of the Faceless Men too. Like, if you're going to have a theme song for the headquarters of the Faceless Men, it's going to be this. This is where assassins rest. If you get what I mean. I think he did an absolutely spectacular job at capturing the atmosphere of this House of Black and White.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Very cool. Very cool and atmospheric, and very great tone for what they're trying to go for.
Oh yeah. If this had been paired with a well-written story, then it would be great.
Oh. Yeah. Blended together perfectly.
Our second track represents Jon Snow's sort of character realization in this episode of this is who he now is, as now that he's Lord Commander, and he has to actually deal respect and mean what he says and become the man that he has always been, the man that Geo Mormont in season 1 saw him as being when he made him his steward. It is a song called Kill the Boy. Obviously, this plays when he beheads Janos Slint.
Yeah. The way the drums build up the tension is just so good. Just a very clear, constant rhythm as the scene plays. Yes, this is very fitting of that scene.
So the symbolism of this track is incredible because it's a blend of two different songs. So firstly, the undercurrent, the horn and the drums are representative of the Night's Watch theme. So that is part of it. But the even bigger part of it for me is the high notes. You may have, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but the high notes in this song are a reverse of the same song that plays both in the scene when Theon beheads Roderick Cassell and also the scene when Robb Stark beheads Rickard Karstark.
Yeah, it's very similar in sound, you know, in terms of like arrangement, but obviously you said it's flipped, so it's quite neat.
Well, because obviously in that scene it's whereas this scene is and it's the same instrument, so it's a reverse of that. And also
because now those three characters all have had their sort of moment to take action in these kind of situations in their leadership.
Yep.
Which is very cool to see, you know, the sort of parallels between
and
the three.
They were all there when Ned Stark beheaded that Night's Watch deserter in the first episode of season 1.
Yes, in the very first episode.
But I love how this is. It's so interesting because they take the Night's Watch theme, because this is part of Jon's thing of being the Lord Commander, and they combine it with a reversed version of that scene with Theon and Robb when they beheaded their respective betrayers, for better or worse. I think this is just like it's such a satisfying thematic, you know, thing that musicians do when they connect songs like this together. And they put themes together in like a little connection
when they mix themes together and switch them, you know, and try and make new meaning out of it. It's very, very fun, very, very like meaningful.
Yeah, so I think Raymond Javadi did a fantastic job of mirroring those other scenes with this song, and somehow was able to combine a backwards version of that song, which I believe is called something like "I Paid the Iron Price" or something like. I can't remember which theme it was, but it was that Theon Greyjoy beheads Roderick and Robb beheads Rickard song, reverses it and then combines it with the Night's Watch theme. Both of those fit this situation that Jon is going through.
Very, very good.
And
good
also,
stuff.
In a functional way, ramps up tension before he beheads him, and then has a little quiet moment after the head gets taken off. When you get that scene where Jon looks down at his head falling off, thinking, "I've just done it," and then looks up at Stannis and sees him nod in approval. So fucking good. Raymond Javadi's a genius.
Awesome stuff.
So in the novels, the meeting between the High Sparrow and Cersei is a lot more confrontational. He refuses to meet her before she's completed her morning prayers. He's a lot more traditional with his sort of the way he goes about his religion. What they've decided to do here, and it's possible they may have done that because of the way that Jonathan Pryce plays the role, is they've made him seem quite antithetical to what you'd expect. So Lancel is, you know, showing off the really hardcore, you know, you must follow the Seven Faith, otherwise you are a disgrace. When Cersei meets the High Sparrow, he's actually much kinder as he appears than you'd expect. But I think this is kind of the magic ingredient, because what this does is it kind of puts up a facade about this guy, that he's actually like a really charitable guy. He gave away his shoes to some poor person who needed it more. But there is an underlying ulterior motive, and you can see that in his performance. And this is one of the benefits of having actors on screen, is that you can have his other side portrayed through facial expression as opposed to all dialogue. And I think Jonathan Pryce really got across that there is more than meets the eye with the High Sparrow. And I actually think this is a change that really benefits the character massively. It also shows that Cersei is going into this with a lot of good faith. You know, Cersei believes she's doing something good for the realm in electing High Sparrow into power over the Septon who was at the brothel. Now, interestingly, that scene with Davos and Jon, in the novel, it's actually the Red Woman, Melisandre, who advises him on how to deal with Stannis, but it's actually, the dialogue's quite different. But I actually think what they did with Davos works, and they changed it to sort of fit his character. You know, I'm not a learned man, but I know Stannis. He's a complicated man, but he means well for the realm. You know, that sort of thing. So I actually think they've done a good job in giving Davos a scene as opposed to just having him be background. Also, the reason why Tyrion has sex with the whore is not because she has... What did he say? You have a skeptical mind? It wasn't because of that. It's because all the others were old. Oh yeah, we did forget to mention there was that scene at the start before he went into the brothel, where it's like you rub a dwarf on the head, it's good luck. He's like, I heard it's better luck if you suck my cock. And also in the books, he doesn't try to stealthily kidnap Tyrion. He does it in full view of everyone. And when the owner tries to stop him, he brings his sword out. So pretty much as soon as Jorah sees him, he just takes him straight away. I guess the difference here is that Varys was in this scene, so they had to have Varys not be part of it, which is why they kind of did that repeating thing of Tyrion disappears and Varys doesn't see where he goes. Like the sort of the Batman trick. I just think Varys being part of this whole thing is just such bullshit. Like, it really devalues his character massively.
Yeah, he's...
And also, in the scene in the books, the Daenerys lookalike is on Jorah's lap, and Tyrion sees it but doesn't know who Jorah is. He's never seen him before and doesn't recognize him. So in the scene, it's... But I guess because of the TV show, you couldn't really do that because, like... I mean, you could do it, but the reveal wouldn't be as surprising. When Arya disposes of her possessions in the canal, she returns to the House of Black and White completely naked. Obviously, Maisie Williams was 17 at the time, so they didn't do that because it would have been illegal.
It would have been both illegal and very just disturbing. No one really wants to see that.
So they had her dress into her stuff before leaving the building.
Yeah.
And also, she hides Needle in a hole under the steps as opposed to inside the rocks.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, those steps leading up to the House of Black and White, she hides it under the steps as opposed to in a rock. It does make you wonder that if Braavos had a big tidal wave, would it brush those rocks off? Not sure. I guess maybe the surrounding islands and where the sort of the Titan is would stop any, major, sea disruptions because it is more of a harbor. Oh, did you notice that now that Marjorie is the queen, she started to dress like Cersei and braid her hair the same way?
Yeah, she did.
Which just kind of sticks the knife in even more.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
So in the scene with the High Septon in the brothel?
Yes.
The actress who plays the stranger is the same actress who plays the Daenerys cosplay.
Oh, really? Double pay, I guess.
She also plays a prostitute in the bathhouse with Salladhor Saan last season.
Oh, she gets around then.
No pun intended. I do wonder if her old costume, Arya's old costume, would have smelled like shit in universe. I guess she does wash it.
Yeah.
In the scene where Arya is belittled for still wearing the same clothes she arrived in is a bit hypocritical. After not being allowed entrance when she first arrived, it seemed as though Arya was sought out and brought back. Since she was allowed in as a trainee, she should have been offered a change of clothes. Yeah, that is interesting, how they didn't offer her a change of clothes, but they just complained that she's wearing them and didn't ask to have them.
They're mysterious. They're mysterious.
Man, it's like they have to try and add tension for the sake of it. Why can't they just have her be actually accepted? Obviously you have the thing of you must become no one as an educational tip, but the tension is unnecessary. The whole arguing part of it doesn't need to happen. You could just have it be a nice little side story where she's learning and she's thinking about things, as opposed to having the one bit of tension that you do need that was great was the bit where she has to put Needle away. That's the one thing that works really well. So they didn't have enough sets for season 5 for Volantis. So what they did was they reused stuff from Moat Cailin and Harrenhal and put it together and redressed it.
Okay.
Also, I just remembered, because we got a Red Priestess in this episode, Waith has not turned up at all in Daenerys' storyline. She's just not there. And in the show they had a lot more for Jorah Mormont. She hasn't turned up for him either. So that's a bit annoying. Also, is it me, or is this one of the first time we've seen an East Asian actor in the show? Or at least a character that's...
Maybe. There's none that I remember from earlier seasons.
Yeah, there's not too many of them. Tyrion also mentioned the Stone Men, who are people infected with grayscale, which is connected to Shireen, who last episode talked to Gilly about her grayscale, so that is a nice link that they've done. You know how before Janos is beheaded, he mentions he has powerful friends?
Yeah.
Well, he said the same. I think there was a... let me see. Let me read this. So in season 2 in the Nightlands, when Tyrion had exiled him to the wall, he similarly declared that he had powerful friends in the capital in the same scene.
Yeah, he did.
But he pointed out then he meant how Cersei rewarded him for his lordship for betraying Eddard Stark. He was a fool to think Cersei considered him a friend, and indeed, while Cersei was annoyed at Tyrion, Janos wasn't worth contradicting the hand of the king's orders over. So if Janos had really had powerful friends in the capital, he wouldn't have ended up at the wall in the first place. So he's clearly not the brightest bulb, is he?
No. Definitely not.
His death was also foreshadowed in the first novel, in a way that the TV show couldn't easily do. So in Sansa's inner thought monologue, she remembers how Janos threw her father down on his knees for Sir Ilyn to behead, and hatefully wishes that if this were one of her romantic songs, some hero would come along to throw Slint down on his knees and behead him in punishment for his betrayal. And then a voice inside her head reminds her of the bitter lesson she learned shortly before. This is Westeros, where there are no heroes, and evil people like Joffrey, Janos, and Cersei always triumph. It takes 4 novels, but eventually the narrative starts proving wrong her thoughts from that moment. As the Lannisters unravel, the TV series didn't include this because Sansa couldn't say it out loud while Joffrey's prisoner. So Sansa's inner monologue foreshadows Jon's beheading of Slint. You know, the whole idea of Jon is the hero who comes along. Unintentionally, which is interesting because she was quite mean to Jon early on. So there is a section of the story that has been cut out for Theon and the Boltons. There's a whole chapter at a place called Barrowton. Now, if you remember, there is a scene between Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark in the 2nd episode of season 1 when they're on the King's Road, where they're feasting. Do you remember when they were feasting at that little table, talking about the past and all that? So it is implied in the books that that feast comes from Barrowton. They have a lot of wild animals around that area. And in the books, Robert hunts it on a horse, whereas in the show they didn't show that scene because of the budget. But Barrowton is known as a place with lots of food. This is why when they go to Winterfell, Ramsay and Roose Bolton have lots of food to feast on, because of the Barrowton, the Dustin family. And there's a character called Barbary Dustin who tells a story about how the Starks betrayed her, and which is why she's turned on them and why she's in support of the Boltons. So they've cut this whole thing out of the story. They also have a whole section where Roose Bolton shows some forgiveness towards him for the way, Theon, the way he's been treated, and the way that he deserves to be more than Reek. And he kind of, there's a little bit of tension there in the sense of Roose Bolton wants to sort of make good for the bad that Ramsay has done to him. That all has been cut, unfortunately, and it's like a really cool chapter that we get at Barrowton. But the important information is that the reason why they have a massive feast at Winterfell is because of Barrowton, and it's the same reason why Ned and Robert had a massive feast in the 2nd episode of season 1. A further point of evidence that Tommen is not 12 in season 5 but closer to 17-18 is that he doesn't have a regent. That's why they call him the Queen. That's why they call Cersei the Queen Mother and not the Queen Regent, because he's technically of age. So I guess that they don't specify his age, but because he has a Queen Mother and not a Queen Regent, it shows that he's of age to consummate the marriage. So I suppose legally speaking, that does justify that scene, even though it is weird to. It is weird because the actress for Marjorie is in her mid-30s during that scene.
She is, yeah.
And he's like a teenager. It's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's almost 20 years older than him. Officially speaking, Sansa Stark has reached the long-dreaded point that many characters face around this time of the show, is that she is finally caught up to where she is in the books, and from here, everything Dave and Dan do with her is quote-unquote original. So yeah, got that to look forward to, I suppose.
Yay.
So, viewership. Last time was a 6.8, and episode 1 got an 8.0. This episode got 6.7, so it's dropped even more.
Oh, God.
So, it wasn't just a one-time thing. It wasn't just like a holiday or something. It's actually legitimately dropped. Do you think this may, and I say this with speculation, I don't know this for sure, but do you think maybe there was such a backlash to the first episode of season 5, and possibly the second, that a bunch of the hardcore fans just dropped off from watching it live?
I'm not sure, really. I think just... Yeah, I'm not sure to think why it's going down. I would imagine by the time we get near the end of the season, it's probably going to start building back up again.
I
Because
do
obviously
wonder
after this season is where the viewership really starts to radically rise once
Yeah.
you get to the last 3 seasons.
I do wonder if this was aired during a heat wave and people were going outside. That is possible. If it was, 1 million fans decided that this is shit now, I wouldn't blame them. Like 1 million book readers who have seen how many changes they've done in the last few episodes have gone, okay, fuck this. It'll be interesting to see what the rating is for the next episode, though, given how much stuff that was in this one was actually quite good. Not all of it, but some of it. So yeah, something to keep an eye on, I think. This is the first time in the show we've really seen a significant drop, really, over the course of 2 weeks following one. That seems... It's an unusual drop so far. But yeah, we'll see what happens from here. Give your conclusion and rating out of 10 for High Sparrow.
Well, considering how this is the best episode so far, and it actually has some really good stuff in it, and probably about 15% of the episode wasn't good, I'd probably give this like a good... I would probably say... It's either a 6.5 or a 7. And because of how poor the last bit was, I'm probably going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
They're just slightly worse than Breaker of Chains.
Yeah, because those last sort of 8 minutes are just piss. And it just sums up Tyrion as a character, really. And obviously all the stuff with Arya right now isn't great. It's very much nothing at the moment.
Do you remember back in like seasons?
Everything else was great.
Do you remember back in like seasons 1 and 2 when Tyrion was one of the top 3 characters in the show?
Season 2 was really his peak.
Yep.
And plus the trial. So season 2 and then the trial episode of where he really peaked. How far he's fallen in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, so much like the previous episodes in season 5, this is a mixed bag. However, it's mixed in a much more positive way than the last 2.
Yes.
I actually think this is one of the better episodes of the second half of the show. So the stuff in Bravos is mixed because the scenes where Arya has to give up Needle is fantastic for her character. But the sort of the many-faced god allegory is really well done. But the forced conflict between her and the waif is unnecessary, and the lack of inner monologue makes the sweeping and cleaning scenes a lot less impactful than they should be, a lot less meaningful. The stuff in King's Landing was awesome, with Tommen's wedding to Marjorie, and the scenes with Marjorie and Cersei were awesome. I loved those. And the High Septon being imprisoned and Cersei finding the High Sparrow with Jonathan Pryce's performance. Everything with King's Landing was top-notch stuff. Loved it. The stuff at Moat Cailin was wildly, drastically mixed because the Littlefinger wanting to marry Sansa to Ramsay is stupid and makes no sense, and I hate it. But the scene with Brienne of Tarth and Podrick is awesome and possibly her best scene in the whole show. I loved that scene so much. At Winterfell, the Bolton side of it is good with Ramsay, Roose Bolton, and with Miranda and Theon. All of that stuff works really well. The problem is, like I said, Sansa and Littlefinger shouldn't be there. That's the issue. I don't like how Littlefinger wants to marry Sansa to Ramsay because it makes Littlefinger look really dumb. And for Sansa's character arc, this regresses her back from where she was going. You know, the whole scene in Season 4, Episode 8 of her dyeing her hair black and becoming empowered after she escapes Littlefinger being executed for the death of Lysa Arryn from the trial. All of that is now squashed, and we're now back to where she was when she was, you know, being oppressed by Cersei and Joffrey, which is just ridiculous. I despise this decision. The stuff at the wall was really good, with the scene with Stannis and Davos and Jon, with him choosing not to take Winterfell back and become a Stark. And of course, the highlight being the beheading of Janos Slynt. It's one of my favourite Jon scenes in the show. Absolutely sensational. Raymond Javadi's music throughout the episode with House of Black and White and with Kill the Boy was perfect choices for those scenes. And the Tyrion thing was a good idea to adapt that scene from the book, but they changed too much about it to the point where it's no longer a good scene. And it just becomes a bit of a mess. And that's really unfortunate. I am also going to give this a 6.5 because I think Breaker of Chains has like one major problem and it has a couple of minor issues. Whereas this, I think, has more than one major issue. I think the Littlefinger thing and also the Tyrion thing are both massive problems. And you've obviously got the Waif Arya stuff too, which is a bit annoying. But for the most part, I actually really like this episode, and I think it's a highlight of the bad seasons. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10. Funnily enough, that's actually a low score for the early seasons. This would be considered like a below par episode for early seasons. Are you a little bit surprised that we got an above medium episode, season 5?
A little bit. I think the stuff it actually focused on more so was the stuff I already thought was pretty decent, and it just pretty much extended upon those things like the Wall, Cersei, and yeah,
Brandon
that
Podrick.
stuff was still very rare. Yep, and then we obviously got, you know, Greyjoy. We got the Boltons. We got those stuff, which was still very.
We had no
very cool,
Daenerys
very
and we had
good
no
stuff.
Jaime.
No Daenerys. Yes. Yeah. Right now, that's pleasant at the moment. Yeah. So the stuff that I already thought was good, it got extensions. So I'm happy with that.
And you got a nice little surprise with Arya with the needle scene. But yeah, the scenes with Brienne and with Jon and with Cersei were worthy of the good seasons. They were so good. I think that's the frustrating thing, is that if this episode was consistent, it would actually be really good. If it was all on that level, like the level of the Cersei scenes, the Jon scenes, and the Brienne scene, and the Arya Needle scene, if it was all like that, this would be a really good episode. But it's too inconsistent. And that's the frustrating whiplash effect, unfortunately. But yeah. Here's hoping that somehow we can maintain this this positive upswing, and we can have some more good stuff in the next episode.
Yeah, let's hope so.
The next
So
episode
if we
is
start
called...
now focusing on Daenerys stuff with Tyrion soon coming into her story. That just feels like a recipe for disaster right now.
Because you got two
But
bads.
it's gonna happen. But it's gonna happen. So.
Well, speaking of Daenerys, the next episode, which is season 5, episode 4, is called Sons of the Harpy. Your anticipations for Sons of the Harpy?
Well, it's going to be a Daenerys episode, so yeah, that's not looking forward to that. Just in general. So yeah, as long as the Wall stuff keeps getting focus and Cersei and Marjorie stuff continues, then I'll be excited for that. That's for sure.
It seems like it's funny because other seasons there's lots of people to choose from in terms of who's in the lead, but it seems like this season it's just Cersei and Jon battling to get like the only ones that are actually putting up a fight for like who's the best character. So at least at this point in the show, some stuff is good, Whereas once we get to much later in the show, unfortunately, the good is extremely difficult to find, especially when we get to like season 8, for example, which is really sad. I think the saddest thing about it is that the stuff you're enjoying now eventually becomes bad. That's the sad thing. All these characters we really like Cersei and like Jon, there is a point where they drop off too. It happens later than the others, but it does happen. So yeah, we will see you next time for Sons of the Harpy. I bid you adieu, a good night, mwah, and a goodbye. Bang.